included or fully included into the system, should I say? Yes. And
okay, so it's not all that. Oh, impressive. You have left quite a bit of time on your part. Let me get it from a governance organization's leader. I think I've asked you this question more times than I have asked any other person on Blanto. Still, the state of governance. But for now, I think it will be more of an updated state from the last time that you were here. A number of things have happened. We had the talk of the bulletin, but now Parliament is adjourned, signed. We're still waiting for Parliament to come back. Other issues that have gone back and forth. But from a Yali point of view and from a governance specialist point of view, where are we in the wake of COVID-19, if I dare add that? And
governance is simply a mechanism of power sharing between the governors and those who are governed. And one of the key things that we must be able to bear in mind is that since the onset of COVID-19, there has been very little happening on the democracy front. But the key element that we can look at in terms of this relationship between the governors and the governed is that on the daily basis, the Ministry of Health, through the minister, has been informing the nation in terms of the measures, in terms of implementation against COVID-19. There has been a re-emphasis of the President's measures against COVID-19 by the Minister of Health himself, but also by the Minister of Information. And the President has reaffirmed those measures even as he addressed the nation today. In the past 1 month or so, the President has engaged the citizens of this country on 3 occasions. This one is the 3rd national address. In essence, within this particular period of time, the President has been informing each and every one of us as to, 1, the measures that we are supposed to be able to implement against COVID-19. That is the first one. The second one, the President has been very, very articulate in terms of what is the recovery plan, in terms of where do we go from here. The third is also about how are the relaxation of the measures that he was able to put in place, how are they going to be done? So on that standpoint, if you look at it in terms of the management of COVID in relation to governance, you must be able to look at it and say government and the President in particular has been top of the game, has ensured that people are receiving this information on a daily basis, but also most importantly, they governed, on the other hand, have also been able to move in a positive direction because they have been able to forego going to church, they have been able to forego going to bars, they have been able to forego going to nightclubs, they have also been able to forego going in very crowded places, which for us is a very good thing. So in terms of the governance arrangement there, it has been absolutely superb.
Okay, absolutely superb. Oh, great. If it were in college or in university, it would have said probably they are somewhere near the summa cum laude kind of grading. I like that. Okay, let me get to Narib. There have been concerns that the information sharing, especially around COVID-19, has not gone down to the very, very end users. We should be grateful for the daily national addresses via the various media houses, including this one, where the minister of... But they say that when you go down and talk to the people on the ground, it seems that this message hasn't sunk in, or if it has, it's not taken with the seriousness that others wish it would have. What is your take on that standpoint? And your 3 minutes start now.
Well, my take on that stand is that, yes, the government has done what it can, but I feel more could have been done because if you talk of COVID, people on the ground, yes, they hear COVID, but not all of them really know what COVID really is. All they know is wash your hands, keep a social distance, but most of these things aren't even adhered to. You find on buses, people are still moving crowded because government does not have the mandate to implement what it's actually been talking about.
Doesn't have the mandate or does not have the means? I think they have the mandate.
Yes, they do have the mandate.
We've got statutory instrument number 21 and number 22 that were issued, which has to do with most of these. And I think, in essence, in the speech today, the president made an inference to those when he said, by following the stipulated guidelines. So if somebody asks what are those stipulated guidelines, among others is, of course, SI 21 and 22. Do you still feel as an organization that they haven't done enough?
Yes, they haven't done enough.
What do you think could be done? You still have a bit of time before I come to Andrew.
What could be done?
Yes.
More sensitization and stricter measures, because most of the things that the government is using to actually fight COVID, very few is coming from their pocket.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll come to Andrew on the same bed, and from the response. This is from a political point of view. From a CSO point of view, are you also agreeing that you feel that they should have done a little more, and then also to cut the words of Thomas here? Most of the resources that they're using is not even coming from their own pockets. Sayest what thou?
So, first of all, we must be able to understand that COVID is a very serious disease. Even in countries that are very well developed, that have got very powerful systems, health systems, they're having serious challenges. A lot of people have died in the United States, in the United Kingdom, Spain, and Italy, and so forth and so on. In the absence of the president's measures against COVID-19, the situation would have been dire. The situation would have been very, very worse than it currently is today. That is number one. Number two, in the absence of adequate preparedness, I keep saying this, Dominic, that that's what would have happened. But one of the key things that our people must be able to know is that 3 years ago, government set up what they called the National Public Health Institute, which looks at epidemics, and it is headed by Professor Mkonka. The reason why they set it up was to be able to prepare for any epidemics, such as what we are having currently. In the absence of that, the situation would have been completely pathetic. Right now, even us having the luxury of saying, no, the government could have done more, could not even have that pleasure. The investment that government has done in the health sector, if it had not been done, Dominic, the situation would have been pathetic. Can you imagine that the people who are now at Lev Manawasa Hospital, we are going to the ordinary hospitals. For instance, we're going to UTH, we're going to our clinics. What would have happened? How many deaths would you have recorded? So, when you look at all of these, the fourth one, Zambia is now the center for disease control. Africa Center Disease Control headquarters is headquartered here in Zambia. That gives us an opportunity, leverage, to be able to deal with these issues. Put all these together, the infrastructure, the preparedness, the setting up of authorities, the Center for Disease Control in Africa, as well as the President's measures against COVID-19. We are where we are today. We have managed to contain it. Yes, the number is at 84. the situation could have been worse, much, much worse. In the United States, how many people have died? Over 25,000, isn't it? Those are the numbers they're talking about. They're talking about thousands. They're talking about a situation where in one day, over 1,000 people probably have been dying. Okay. So, I understand my colleague is coming from the opposition. He has to be relevant.
Yes.
You understand that, right? But we must be able to look at these issues very objectively.
Okay.
And objectively, as I have indicated, government has been on hand to give out this information.
Okay.
Members of Parliament.
Okay, your time. Yeah, I'm gonna bring you back. I don't know how you went through my script to ask about the Parliament, because that Parliament question is coming. Just a moment. Now let me get back to Thomas Kaila here. When it comes to the opposition, how would you rate how the opposition has fared in this, in playing their role in governance in the midst of this COVID-19? And at this point, I will allow you also to, in as much as you describe the opposition in general, to also pinpoint, if any, how NAREP has acted. And your 3 minutes, sir, start now.
Well, what the opposition has done isn't much as well. There's more that we can do, and what we as NAREP have done is we've been sensitizing our members about COVID, its dangers, and how best they can prevent themselves. And most of our officers are actually on lockdown, if anything, and we are maintaining the social distance and everything. Yeah, I cannot talk on behalf of other parties because I do not know what they are doing besides the donations that they have made.
Okay.
Yes.
But in terms of offering, because political parties, those that are in the opposition, you're part of part of the governance system.
Yes.
There is also another role that you're playing, the offering of checks and balances. How has NAREP, for example, fared in that vein?
When it comes to checks and balances,
yeah.
if there's any party in Zambia that has offered proper checks and balances, is none other than NAREP.
Is that the reason you got ejected from the alliance? I just thought I'd add that.
Well,
because you said if there's any party that has offered
yes.
proper checks and balances, that's been NAREP. But not so long ago, you were part of the much talked about mighty alliance, and we learned that you were ejected. If I would use another word, you were expelled from that alliance. Is that because you are the only party that offers proper checks and balances? That verdict befell you?
Let me give a brief history of how the alliance came into being. First and foremostly, the alliance came into being because there were a lot of issues affecting the country. Number one being the Public Order Act. Number two, electoral reforms. And thirdly, the well-being of the people of Zambia. At no point was it declared to say this is an electoral pact. Yes, there were suggestions, and there was a pilot project, RON. And after RON, what followed is that they didn't follow the pilot project that was instilled. And for us as NAREP, we believe we cannot be part of an alliance that has got no proper vision for the people of Zambia. That does not include Zambia for Zambians, because for us, if it is not Zambia for Zambians, then we are not in it. And if anything, our doors are open to negotiations with anybody, so long as Zambians are included in that agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me get in. And deliberately, I want get you to weigh in on who is now a member of the party and who is not, because I know you are likely to look in the camera and say, you see, I've been vindicated with the process coming to party, because you were one of those people that categorically said this thing doesn't seem to be well conceived enough in order for it to stand the test of time. And we saw the likes of Pep leave, we saw Fresh Asiwale leave, we saw Park leave, now NAREP asked to leave. and it looks like it's more disintegrating than it is integrated. But
You
that's
should
true.
believe when we say these things. We say these things 5 years in advance. We're able to read in the future.
Okay.
And-
So
and-
you're
and-
a political prophet?
No, not really a prophet or anything. It's simple, it's science.
Yeah.
It's science of human beings. Which alliance in Zambia has ever held? Which alliance has succeeded?
From Zadeko to
From 2006.
UDA.
Yes.
Okay. We'll
So
get-
that's to us, it's not an issue. What is happening is that we are waiting for NDC to leave. It will happen very soon. We are also waiting for the other political parties to leave. It will happen very soon. So it's just a question of time.
It's a question of, it's more of,
It's not about if, it's a
more
question of when.
Okay, it's a question of when more than if. We'll have another program where we'll discuss the alliance, and hopefully we can get the mighty James Lukuku, a man who seems to be very much on hand issuing statements that sometimes get him in trouble. That's a talk for a different day. But let me get back. Andrew, there is a concern. For example, in terms of there have been donations that have been coming back and forth. There's one donation that seems to have raised a lot of eyebrows, and this is when the taxman decided to join other well-wishers and offer a donation in the Zambia Revenue Authority. People raised eyebrows, say that's government. Government can't donate to government. Aziali, what is your take when you saw the Kingsley Chanda-led Revenue Authority make a donation towards the fight against COVID?
These are quasi-government institutions. They are quasi-government institutions. It's more like you say all those institutions that fall under UDR, under the former INDECO,
IDC.
under IDC should not donate. It does not make any sense. Okay. Ultimately, the truth of the matter is that, as I was indicating in my earlier submission, the fight against COVID must not be left to government alone. It is a fight for every one of us. It is a fight for members of parliament. It is a fight for members, leaders of opposition political parties. It is a fight for the chiefs in this country. It is a fight for us as civil society organizations. And whatever we are trying to do, even right now here, is trying to educate citizens on the do's and things that you're not supposed to be able to do. And in that case, we are contributing. In terms of the donations, we have noted that somehow the politics are still coming to the fore. When you look at the president's statement today, what we have been keenly following is that from the time the pandemic was declared and from the time the government set up the emergency fund to be able to deal with COVID, immediately the Auditor General issued a statement. And that statement had to do with how the resources, the donations that are going to the Ministry of Health are supposed to be utilized. And to us that is very important. We have studied the presidential speech on the first day. We have studied it on the second one. And we're also studying the current presidential speech. Now, it has a very, very clear guideline. May I read a part of it?
Okay, yes.
It says, I must acknowledge that the country has received huge donations from local and international donors following the outbreak of COVID-19. I would like to thank all cooperating partners, and I assure them of the prudent use of these donations in accordance with the Public Finance Management Act of 2018.
2018, yes.
This has been very consistent. And the reason why the President is talking about the Public Finance Management Act of 2018, it is the one that brings in stringent measures on how public resources must be utilized. I took keen interest today that immediately after I listened to the President, I was looking forward to hearing again. The Auditor General has in the past 3 weeks issued 3 statements. And today, this evening, they have issued another public statement. Today, they are not only talking about the usage of donations, They have gone further to indicate that every other donation that has been received is now being audited. So they have gone to the Ministry of Health, they're auditing every other resource that has come in. They're also going to go to the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit to be able to look and audit the resources that have come in. Mr. Sichembe has indicated that they are also going to audit all provincial administrations to be able to look at the donations that have actually come in. To us, that gives us solace and happiness that the Auditor General is indicating and has already begun doing the audit work to ensure the public resources are utilized.
Do you think just on that same
yes.
It is one thing. Somebody said this. It sounds a bit crude, but somebody said the road to hell is paved by good intentions. So we have, for example, the consistency in the 3 presidential statements
yes.
around putting the Zambian lives more than anything,
yes.
being able to work this as a unit that is consistent. In the second and the third, there's been this cause. Yes, apart from the Auditor General, the Secretary of the Cabinet as well, Mr. Fredson Yamba also issued statements to the effect, Secretary to the Treasury, I thank you for the correction, Secretary of the Treasury also issued statements to the effect of how transparent the process is, giving account details of which banks are able to receive money for and on behalf of the Bank of Zambia to feed into these special accounts of the COVID-19. People will say, yes, those are good intentions, but do we have what it takes to implement those good intentions so that we don't have the 2020 Auditor General's report laden with inconsistencies in the line of the COVID?
It's no longer an intention.
Okay.
The public statement issued by the Auditor General today indicates that they have started auditing the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, the audit Ministry of Health, they also audit provincial administrations across the country. So it's not an indication or intention.
Okay.
It's a reality, it's happening.
Okay.
Now, who doubts the effectiveness of the Auditor General in this country? They have never shied away to indicate when, for instance, there has been abuse of public resources. They have never shied away. That is the reason why those of us who have been tracking and been able to look at the Auditor General's report from 2012 to date will be able to tell you that since the 2018 Public Finance Management Act was implemented, there has been a significant reduction, not only in audit queries, but also in resources that are misapplied and misappropriated.
Okay.
There has been very, very significant improvement in that regard.
All right.
So we're very hopeful. We're certain the Auditor General is definitely going to do a good job. And we can only hope and pray that the donations will continue coming and that donors will continue to support this fight against COVID-19 because after all, the lives of the Zambian people hinge on that.
Let me come to Thomas here. A number of issues around the same COVID-19 have been raised. Some people have felt that there are political players that have unfortunately failed to heed even directives from people like the head of the World Health Organization at the United Nations, who said, and I paraphrase that quote, to say, for a moment, let's quarantine politics out of this. This is not about partisan politics. This is a concerted fight. But others have felt that there are certain political players that have tried to garner some kind of political mileage in the wake of this by politicking over matters that need more concerted effort. What is your take on this matter?
No, well, such people do not mean well for the people. That is one. And secondly, such people should not be taken serious in any way whatsoever. Yes. All right. So they should not be taken serious.
Exactly. You are the chairperson of the youth in Narek. Zambia's population is by and large a very young population, and most people agree that Zambia is a youthful population. Do you feel that the youth in this country, regardless of which side they fall on the political, religious, racial, gender, or any other divide indeed, have done enough in this fight against COVID-19 in whatever ways that youths can come in? Because there are some of the attributes about youths is energy, sense of innovation, and all these kind of things. Do you feel that young people in this country have stepped up enough to push back this ugly pandemic?
Yes, the young people of Zambia have actually done more than enough based on what they have and what they can do. Had they had more resources, they would have actually even done more.
Okay.
Yes.
A similar question, but with a little bit of an extension from a Yali point of view. Some people have said that, for example, one of the most important measures in order to reduce the continued spread of COVID-19 is social distancing. And people say that in the wake of the current economic takings, and I think in the presidential speech which I have here, that was also attributed. He talked about it in part 2 when he was saying, I'm cognizant of that saloon, that hairdresser in Chilenje. I think of that young person who has lost an income. He talked about it here again when he asked the famous 8 questions, when he talked about where we're going to get money for FISIP and all that kind of thing. But people are saying, it's very hard for us to social distance, especially that many of us live from hand to mouth. I might want to stay home. I might want to stay away from the market. But if I do so, I risk going hungry. What are some of the measures that you would recommend for the people, as well as those that are charged with the authority to run the affairs, to try and manage this?
First of all, we think that the president is spot on. That should be a starting point.
Yes, it's the third time you have
yes,
mentioned that.
And for the benefit of the people of the Republic of Zambia, for our own sake, it is only prudent and correct that we must support the president's measures against COVID-19. Okay? That is number one. Number two, the famous questions that you raise are pertinent issues. That goes to the heart of the question. Because the president, mind you, has no luxury to make a mistake. You, Chatel, and myself here, and Kayula here, no, we can be here. We can make mistakes. The president doesn't have that luxury. And that is why he's asking those pertinent questions. And he's asking the question, for instance, we're supposed to be talking about relief food. People have had floods. They need relief food. How are we going to bring it? Secondly, we have just produced maize. Who is going to harvest the maize? Thirdly, the people who are supposed to get salaries at the end of the month, our nurses, our doctors, our teachers, they will not sit back and say, no, but because of COVID, so there is no money, government is unable to pay. They will not sit back and do that. There are debt obligations, which we must be able to meet. Look, we import fuel. We don't produce fuel. These are the issues. And most importantly, there are these issues that you now raise about the hand to mouth. That's the reason why, from the Yali point of view, we have not shied from commending His Excellency. Because the truth of the matter is that if he had just rushed into a lockdown, a complete lockdown of the country, as was being suggested by other opposition leaders, what was going to happen to the people in Mateo? How were people in George Compound going to survive? How are they going to survive? Because ultimately, they feed every day. The little business they do, they have to feed. So, in leadership, you don't have to panic. And that's what the president has demonstrated. Number two, in leadership, you must be able to look at the problem, diagnose it, and find a balance. How do you balance the fact that people must not have the disease, but at the same time, that people must not die of hunger. Because you can lock people down in their houses. What happens after 21 days? They'll die of hunger. So the president's measures, why we're saying they must be supported, is that he's not talking about a complete lockdown. No. He's not talking about a state of emergency. No. He's saying, let us do things, act responsibly, wash our hands. We can easily do that. Let's sanitize if we can. We can easily do that. Let's have social distance. If we can, we must do it. Let us avoid crowded places.
Yeah, but on the crowded places, yes. Andrew, that's why the tricky part is. Because people, for example, the way we are, yes. For example, on the set here, we are very much compliant. Yes. I'm not wearing my mask yet, but I have my mask. Yes, yes. Should I leave here, I will have my mask. Andrew has vowed he will keep his mask on. Because he's suspecting that I could, whatever. Kaila also has his mask, which is fine, and you can see with that shot that we are separated. Yes. But this does not obtain for those that are in Lusaka, if you go to Soweto. This does not obtain for those that are in Kitwe if you go to Chisokone. This does not obtain for somebody who is watching us in Chipata if you go, to Mchinde or you go to Kapata Market. This might not exactly obtain if you go to Sulawesi and at Kiawama Market. And it keeps on going back and forth. And the argument is that, yes, there might be a few people that are there loitering, but many of them are there just pushing, just to make sure how do we do this?
I've come from Eastern Province, and if you're talking about Kapata Market, I was there with our team. One of the beautiful things that people have been able to do is that on almost every after 2 stands, there is a bucket of water. When you come, you must wash your hands before you even go to buy any goods. I hope and trust that that mechanism can be implemented and replicated, adapted here in Lusaka. The other thing I was also able to notice is that in all the places, Kachorora for instance, Mfuwe, you understand that? All the key places where people are coming in, Chanoda, all these areas.
Mwami, Chanida, Kavara, Mpomwa.
Exactly.
Okay.
They are very good facilities where people are supposed to be to sanitize, to clean up. The temperature is taken, the screening is actually happening. There is a lot more. I'm not saying we are perfect. There is a lot more that we can do. There is a lot more that we ask of our citizens to do. Those of us who are going to Soweto Market, yes, it's our livelihood. But at the end of the day, we must bear in mind that I'm Matenda Nyaipa. And so, because Matenda Nyaipa, let us make sure that we are washing our hands. Let us wear a mask. Chitenge, whatever it is you can manage to afford, please put it on the mouth. And try by all means, Chateo, the message is, even those who are going to the market, those who are going to crowded places, if it is possible that you cannot go, you can avoid, please avoid.
Avoid it.
If you are able to, please wear some form of protective clothing.
Okay.
Because the Ministry of Health, they can do only very well with whatever they have been able to do, but they can do better with the support of the citizens of this country.
Let me ask Thomas, right after I pick up this caller. Hi, good evening. You are now through to Blunt Talk. Okay, so the number is 0978 594 682. 0978 594 682. It will be coming on your screen in just a moment. Just somewhere here, or where my hand is going now. You will have that number put for you in case you are not able to hear it. But it's also scrolling right at the bottom of your screen here. There we go. So thank you very much. The number has been put. So here's the number here where my left hand is pointing. That's where the number is. So give us a call. The number is 0978 594 682. You are now through to Blunt Talk. Good evening. Hello. Hello.
Yes, I'm taking you. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. Give us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yeah, I'm calling from Bedau. Yeah, I'm calling from Bedau.
Mr. Piri from Petaoke, Charles. You have got 75 seconds and your time starts now. Go.
Okay. My contribution is that, prevention is cure. Prevention is better than cure.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you expand a bit what you mean by that?
Yes, I think that prevention is better than cure. So it's good to Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Piri. Mwape mwani kumtilizu.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Calling us from Eastern Zambia, that's Petaoke, Charles Piri. The message again is back. Prevention is better than cure. 0978-594-682. 0978-594-682 is the number for you to dial. Give us a call before I bring back our guest and participate on the program today. We have another caller. Hi, good evening. Yeah, through to Blanto. Hello. Hi, good evening. Yes, I can hear you. What is your name? All right, Joka Kumbi is following us from Namibia. Thank you so very much. This one is Kelly also. Those are some of the people that are following us online. Thank you very much. This one is talking about donations and all that. Thank you very much. We'll be taking in some of your messages that are coming in via Facebook as well there as we continue the program. Okay, let me bring in Thomas here. In the presidential address, there was an issue of relaxing some measures. So I'm going to read an excerpt from the speech by His Excellency. He says, however, I have decided that activities such as the following may continue being undertaken normally, subject to adhering to public health regulations, guidelines, and certifications. 1. Places of worship may congregate while observing social distancing, mandatory face masks, and sanitizing and hand washing guidelines. So one of the things that has taken especially social media awash is this particular relaxation. The president has said, you know what, let the people congregate. What is your position as NAREP to this guideline from His Excellency? And your time starts.
On that one, I will not comment as on behalf of the party.
Okay.
I shall comment on a person or not.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I welcome the move because in times like this, we need prayer, of course. Maybe God can answer us and things can change.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we can't pray from our homes on this particular time?
You know, where two or more are gathered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Let me bring in Andrew here. So there were 3 issues that were relaxed. One of the comments that people have seemed agitated about, they say that when we had the number was lower, the churches were closed, the number has significantly risen, bringing the total number of medical personnel to more than 10 that have been affected. The number is actually 18. And then, you know, the death toll seems to have grown to 3. There's one case which is being considered critical. A person who is tested positive for COVID has also shown very, very serious symptoms of malaria, and that person was actually mentioned in that address. But the opening of the churches, in fact, it's not the churches. Let me read what the president says. Places of worship may congregate. And then he gave a condition while observing social distancing, mandatory face masks, and sanitizing and hand washing guidelines. What is your take on this measure?
First of all, the language is very technical.
Mm-hmm.
It's very technical because, first of all, he says may, meaning it will be up to the discretion of religious people who worship whether to proceed and worship or to continue on the lockdown. It is up to themselves. But secondly, he goes on to indicate that the measures, the mandatory measures of masks, the mandatory measures on social distancing, the mandatory measures of sanitizing and hand washing guidelines must continue to be implemented. So this is a dicey situation insofar as I look at it, because it is not as if the president has said, now you can go ahead, go and do as you wish. That's not what he has said. He said you may congregate, but as you are congregating, can you ensure that you have your masks on? I wonder how the choir are going to sing in the masks. You understand what I'm saying? I wonder how those who praying and so forth and so on are
The intercessors.
The intercessors. So
Yes.
the president has given this as a leeway. And I have seen one of the letters that has been written by the Archbishop of Lusaka, hoping that it is authentic, because social media is awash with a lot of things, that they will not congregate this Sunday, but he has called for a meeting for the chaperone, the deans, and everybody else.
The parish priest and
parish priest, and so to see how it is going to be done. So it's an issue where we are looking at how the disease is going to evolve. We're also looking at how it is going to be contained. My biggest concern is that in particular today, we have like the highest number of COVID cases which have tested positive.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, obviously the president has got a lot of more information than we do.
Yeah.
The question is, what much more information does he have for him to do the relaxation? So at this stage, as I have indicated, I am tied, and my hands are tied to the principle that we must support the president's measures. And we must support even his indication. Because in this indication, it has got a what? A caveat, insofar as I am concerned.
Okay, let's
glad about
entertain a caller. You are now through to Blanto. Hi, good evening. Hi, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
What is your name?
Good.
What is your name?
My name is Christopher.
Christopher, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from within the church.
Christopher, your time starts now. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm glad to comment to the president. So, yes, I'm glad to comment to the president for allowing the president to congregate. Are you with me?
Yes, we are, Chris.
Yes, now my own opinion, it is very nice for the churches to congregate. Yes, now the issue is this. Because when you enter in the church premises, just to propose so that if there are some health officials who can start screening the members of the congregation before they enter, because social distance where one going to members enter into the congregation, it will be difficult. It's better to screen the members so that when they are entered, they are inside, you know, at least they are all, they are not supposed to go over negatives. Because it will be difficult for them to just enter into the situation. But washing their hands, those other things they are okay. But why can't the government put measures in place so that those who are entering the system are screened in order to congregate? Now, if they will just enter and washing their hands, it will be difficult for the social distance. This is what I thought of maybe contributing.
Thank you very much, Christopher in Lusaka. We can bring in one more caller, 0978 594 682. That's 0978 594 682. And we will continue with our discussion right here on Muvi TV. We're joined in by the Yali President, Mr. Andrew Chewewe, as well as the National Youth Chairperson for NAREP, Mr. Thomas Kayola. You are now through to Planto. Good evening.
Good day to you.
What is your name, sir?
Julius.
Where are you calling us from, Julius?
Julius coming from T12.
Yes, Julius. Your time starts now, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, my advice is the time to look to God. Seriously. Not looking to God when we hate some people, or something else, then we are looking to God, so we are praying. No. Take the time to seek God, because even in the medical science, if doctors are so poor, God, we are beyond our control. This is a time to look very much God and not at the praising people, oh no, such person has done this, that's why it's good. No, God does not feel good when we praise people. Instead of praising God, if we can come and praise God in truth, God will answer. So that says, my people, my children, hear my voice. We are there to present time that God to answer. He speaks that he don't follow this. That is all my advice on this issue.
Thank you very much. We honestly do appreciate your contribution there, Julius from Kitwe. I will try and get one more caller, and then we'll start concluding our program for this particular edition. You are now through to Blantyre. Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, what is your name? Nirenda Akim. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Sitma.
All right, Akim, your time starts now, so go ahead.
I'm calling from
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Akim.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. That was our last caller for this particular program. Gentlemen, any reaction to the callers before you start giving us your closing remarks? Who wants to go first?
I can begin.
Okay.
First of all, what I'm getting from the callers is that they are very happy that at least they'll have an opportunity to go to church. To me, the most important thing is to look at the caveat which the President has given. That this is not a passport. That the relaxation does not mean that we should throw away caution. No. That's not what it means. I think that all of us are Christians, and the President is alive to the fact that Zambians love our God very well, and I think that that could have played into his decision making. The most important thing is that once people go into church, those mandatory issues must be practiced effectively. But Chris has raised a very important point, that we can utilize the church for effective information dissemination, for education and giving health tips. But also, most importantly, we can utilize the churches for purposes of screening. We can screen individuals while they go into church. We can also utilize it for testing. We're doing mass testing, isn't it? So if, for instance, we are able to do that from the church point of view, to me, that is going to be progressive.
All right.
But also, most importantly, Choteo, before I cut you, there are 2-3 issues which the President actually highlights. Number one is something that we've been crying about as young people for a very long time. Local young entrepreneurs. Let them be able to supply to the supermarkets. That way we are empowering and we are creating employment for young people. Number two, let the minister actualize the economic recovery COVID-19 fund. COVID-19 recovery fund. That's a directive that the President has been able to give. Number three, Minister of Commerce via loan. More often than not, I think that that ministry has not been active. It is our prayer and hope that it can be rejuvenated. It can become more active to ensure that our people are able to benefit, because government has been able to set aside 10 billion per annum, which is going to be accessed by small and medium scale enterprises. So this money is not going to be accessed anyhow. Entrepreneurs have to be empowered, and the Citizens Economic Empowerment Fund have to do the right thing.
Well, as you make that call, yes. As we conclude now, as you make that call, there was an issue that was raised during the Minister of Finance update on the state of the economy in COVID-19.
Yes.
And the representative of women in construction went to the minister and said, look, in the presidential directive of the 9th, the president said we should be paid up, but we haven't been up to now. So that's what I'm saying. As you make that call, how important is it also that these that are supposed to bring to life, if I were to use that term, the directives and the incentives that are coming from the orange flag should take effect?
First of all, it's very important for us to be very clear that government has already set aside 2.5 billion for the recovery from COVID. Number one, 500 million quarter has to go to public pensions. This money has to be collected by our people, those who have not collected their pensions. Number two, 170 million to banks to clear third-party arrears. The president alludes to that. Number three, that is when that woman comes in, the 140 million to various road contractors. This statement is very clear and categorical. The president has indicated these monies have been allocated.
So in the interest of time, sorry, the
Minister of Finance.
Yes.
But because the man, the president has already indicated.
Let me give, unfortunately, let me give Thomas a minute also, just to conclude. We are almost running into our news time now.
My message to the people of Zambia and the youths in particular is let's adhere to the presidential directive and let's stay indoors, let's maintain social distance, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't make sense when majority of the youths in Zambia were to die, because we as NAREP are here for you, and the kind of development that we want to bring is something that you ought to enjoy. And I beg and plead to you, stay safe, because we are here for you. And I would also like to urge the government on one thing, in that COVID is an eye-opener, in that in the future of any pandemic, let them begin to store foods in advance, such that in such an event they are able to distribute food, because right now it's going to be quite difficult for people to leave the streets or their works of place, because at the end of the day, we're permanent in Zara, kuchira corona.
All right. Okay, so thank you.
Just a minute, sorry. And if we look at other countries that don't even have enough farmlands like the way we do, in the event of any catastrophe, they've got enough food to cater for them for 10 years. And come on, Zambia is way better than they are.
Thank you very much. Just going back to re-emphasize, I think these were the words of the president to say, in as much as it might be a pandemic, it is also an opportunity. He used the word, there is a silver lining over this same cloud, and that's why he talked about the fact that unless we really have to import, otherwise let's just go local. So let's buy Z and let's promote the local entrepreneurship in this country. This is where we wrap it up as far as Blunt Talk is concerned for this particular edition. It wraps it up for the week as well. Next time we'll be doing Blunt Talk will be next week, and during this period, please stay home, stay safe, adhere to all the directives of washing your hands and sanitizing and avoiding unnecessary movements. On behalf of Andrew Tewewe from Miali, as well as Thomas Kayola from NAREP, my name is Chatewa. I'm Biabu Seni. Pleasant viewing.
This is Zambia, this the nation. Yeah. Give us, you give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper. This is Zambia, this the nation. Yeah. Give us, you give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper. This is Zambia, this the nation. Yeah, yeah. Give us, you give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper.
Belongs to Taiwan's Tayal people, whose century-old culture had all but disappeared. Here, where Taiwan meets the Pacific, is the homeland of the Tayal. In and around the village of Jinyu, Chen is fighting to protect her indigenous heritage.
Sometimes I feel I'm too persistent, like a cockroach that refuses to die.
The Tayal live in communities. Close to 600 people live in Chen's village. By the entrance to the village, there's a statue of a Tayal in a loincloth hunting a wild boar, just like in the old days. At the former police station, Chen heads a meeting of the Village Development Committee. Its goal, to ensure a future for Taiwan's indigenous peoples.
When I returned to the village for a project after a long absence, I thought, our culture's being neglected. And as I was studying regional planning, I realized, if we young people don't tend to it, no one will.
But Chen doesn't speak much Atayal. Her family left the village when she was quite young. To raise funds, the committee began doing everything, from selling millet liquor to wooing tourists. So the Tayal could stand on their own 2 feet. But as an independent young woman who didn't speak the language fluently, Chen also met with resistance. Especially the older members of this patriarchal society were reluctant to follow her lead. Alcohol abuse and high unemployment also continued to plague the Tayal. So Chen says to deal with indigenous issues, you need to have a thick skin.
There's no pleasing some people. We ask ourselves if we shouldn't just give up, because it's never enough. You have to be able to put up with that.
But a decade of hard work and persistence is paying off. The number of visitors is rising, and there's more tourist accommodation. That means more money, jobs, and a sense of pride in what they've accomplished. That's given a much-needed boost to the Tayal's self-confidence. Chen approaches a tourist who's fishing here. She invites him to an upcoming festival and to take part in a trash collection project with the tourists out there. Chen tries to hook him with her vision of ecotourism, but he's not...
And can transfer viruses to your eyes, nose, or mouth. 3. Avoid physical contact when greeting. Be ready for coronavirus. Be safe from coronavirus infection. Be smart and inform yourself about it. Be kind and support one another. Be supportive. Be alert. Be kind. Be ready to fight COVID-19. This message is brought to you by Muvi Television for the greater good of Mother Zambia.
Everybody who is running, who is in media today, be very, very careful with us politicians, especially in the opposition. We will be with you. Once you have problems, they will not be there to help you or to bail you out. Today, believe you me, all these guys, we need to get rid of them. We need a new crop,
right.
A new thinking. Amagamba ati ngati mpofu yayimirira pena ngikuuza ati nikutema mwana.
Good evening to everyone joining us from within the borders of Zambia, and of course those that are joining us from across the continent of Africa. My name is Andrew, and this is a special edition of the assignment program. Tonight we discuss the state of the nation. We do know for a fact that quite a number of issues have gone on in our country as of today. The COVID-19 toll stands at 45. We did also hear not so long ago the issue of the Mopani copper mines and the decision that management wants to take to ensure that the mine is put under care and maintenance. Not so long ago, we also were complaining over the relationship that the kwacha is currently sharing with the dollar. The question is, are the opposition of today being relevant to ensure that checks and balances are being offered? Now today we discuss a pertinent issue, and I feature one man that has occupied different ministerial portfolios in government. My guest this evening is now the leader of the opposition National Democratic Congress, Dr. Chimba Kambwili. Dr. Kambwili, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, and good evening to our viewers.
It's good to have you.
It's good to have you, but let me say thank you very much to Mr. Steve Miranda, the owner of this TV station, for being magnanimous not to be intimidated. I was supposed to come here on Sunday, but what has happened is history. But I want to thank Mr. Miranda for saying this TV station shall cover everybody regardless of their political affiliation, creed and color. And thank you, Mr. Miranda. Keep it up.
You're forcing me to begin from that particular note, Dr. Kambwili. After we postponed your appearance on our platform, this week Sunday, we did not say that we were intimidated or threatened by any government agency. We simply postponed it to tonight. Why and where did you get the allegations that we were threatened?
I don't want to go into those details.
Because this is in public domain.
I don't want
to publicize, Dr. Kambwili, that
I don't want to go in those details, but I must tell you that I was reliably informed. You people called me to come on the program. I was on the Copper Belt. You asked me to come. I traveled all the way from the Copper Belt, only to be told at the 11th hour that no, the program has been postponed. And then later on we saw somebody coming on the platform. So what happened?
The question is, Dr. Kambwili, you did go ahead on the Facebook platform of the National Democratic Congress, and through your spokesperson, Sabo Imboela, you issued a statement that Muvi Television was threatened and was intimidated to cancel or postpone the program that I was supposed to have. Our question is, where did you get the information?
Reliable sources. Reliable sources.
That is where you got the information.
Reliable sources.